Hello and welcome back to Ballboy Media. Today we are going to be talking about the man pictured here, Jimmy Butler. We're going to be talking about his path out of Miami. He's already requested a trade, and we're going to break down what that might look like. So here's a little timeline. On December 11th, Shams Charania reported that Butler wants out of Miami. Now, that same day, Butler's agent denied these claims. It was within 20 minutes, and Butler's agent was heated. He really, was kind of being very harsh towards Shams, who was just doing his job. And, once that happened, everyone thought that Jimmy was going to stay because apparently these reports were false. And then on December 26th, about 2 weeks later, Pat Riley denied a possible trade. But on January 2nd, right as the new year turned, Shams again took to reporting, and he claimed that Butler requested a trade. Now, there was no, refute from the agent this time. So, very evident that Butler has been forcing his way out here. Then a day after, the Heat suspended Butler for 7 games, and on that same day they announced that they're open for business. So previously, they were not looking to trade him, but now they're open to trading him because he has become a problem for the locker room. I don't think there's much arguing that. And, both parties decided it's time to move on based on the collaterals from this event. So, recent history for Jimmy. This season, he's averaging 17.6 points a game and 5.5 rebounds, 4.7 assists. Since December 7th, he's only averaging 15, 6, and 4. One thing to note, he's only played 7 of the Heat's last 13 games. And if you take out the 35-point triple-double he had against the Pistons in early December, he is averaging 11.8 points per game since December 7th. Now, I know it's not fair to him because it is a game that he had, but it's really an outlier amongst his performances. So he's really been a 12-point per game player, and it's evident that he's just playing to, fulfill his contract and not to win the Heat basketball games, because it's evident that he wants out, and it's been that way for a while. Right now, as I said, 17.6 points per game is his lowest in a season since the 2013-14 season. So we're talking over 10 years ago. And, it might be an effort thing. I doubt it's a skill thing, to be honest. I still have faith that Butler is a highly productive player when he wants to be. So, a couple possible suitors. I feel like there's 3 plausible ones, and that would be the Warriors, the Rockets, and the Grizzlies. And then for some implausible suitors, I would say that San Antonio and Phoenix fall into that company. So, option 1 would be our Golden State Warriors. Now, they would have to get another team involved in this, and I have the Pistons as that team. Pistons do have cap space, so they can take in some players. Really comes down to just both of these Warriors and Heat are kind of financially challenged. This is some help around Steph Curry. Getting Jimmy is, definitely a viable second option. You're also getting Josh Richardson. I know he's injured now, but he can play bench minutes for your team. They did, as I said, they needed a third facilitating team. So here we see Gary Payton II and a second-round pick shipped off to the Pistons. If I'm the Pistons, Jaden Ivey's out for an indefinite period of time. I kind of like Gary Payton as a player, and they're getting a second-round pick with him. He's on an expiring deal. So, this really comes down to will they want to accept that extra salary. Heat, too. I think this is a good return for the Heat. The Warriors might still not even make the playoffs with Jimmy. So if you're getting that first-round pick, that's kind of like 13, 14, 15 range. That, in today's draft, which seems to be a good draft, that could be a good pick. They already have some young pieces they can build around, like Khalil Ware, and obviously Tyler Herro's a little older, but Jaime Jaquez just had a triple-double the other night. They have a core of young players that they can build around, and I'm interested to see how they go about adding future resources. They also here are adding Wiggins, who, let's be honest, Wiggins is kind of a confusing player, but he kind of gives you the same package that Jimmy does, just on a lesser degree. Kyle Anderson has kind of been buried in the Warriors' rotation so far this year, and I'd like to see him get a bigger role. Same with Kevon Looney, just as a backup center on an expiring contract. That's another big thing for Miami. Butler is carrying a huge salary cap hit, so to shed almost $9 million off the cap will be something that I feel like they might look to do. Next trade, Houston Rockets. Butler is actually from the Houston area, so this would be, kind of a homecoming for him. They need a go-to guy in crunch time. We've heard it before. Fred VanVleet is kind of on the decline, you might say, and the guys that they have, like Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun, aren't exactly don't exactly have a name for themselves in terms of like they can finish a game quite yet, which is okay because they're still on their rookie deals. But Houston, as a team that's second, third in the West, is gonna be making the postseason, I feel like, pretty easily, and they're gonna need a guy at the end of games that they can go to. And Butler, as we've seen time and time again, he can do that. So in this deal, we're kind of doing, almost like a 2-for-2 plus Landale, because Dylan Brooks and Jimmy play the same position, and then Rozier and Van Vliet also play the same position. So here, Houston, kind of even from a cap situation, in terms of they're adding not much money, so they're not really having a big financial, incentive to this deal. But Jimmy and Rozier both are, talented veterans. I feel like the whole reason they brought in Van Vliet and Brooks was that, you want adults in the locker room. And I feel like that's not lost with this trade. I think Jimmy, although he is constantly followed by drama, he can be an adult when needed. Same thing with Rozier. I feel like Rozier is kind of a no-nonsense type player. He just puts in the work, and I think with Houston, he could be a good lead guard for them. They're also giving up a first-round pick. I feel a lot more confident that the Rockets will make the playoffs, and that will make them, probably their draft pick will be in the low 20s, if they make the second round, the mid-20s. But I feel like this deal, the second round pick is compensation for that difference between this and the Warriors. And I think this is actually my favorite trade on the board. Now, a little bit of a dark horse here, we have the Memphis Grizzlies. We know they're the favorites currently by, common betting markets. So that means in the public eye, they're the favorites. But I'm not quite sure that the Grizzlies would do this. They, I feel like they have a good camaraderie. They're good as a team. And so I don't know if they do this trade, but if they wanted to, I think there is a deal on the table, and that would be sending Marcus Smart, Brandon Clark, and Luke Kennard to Miami, and a first-round pick, which, again, I think will be a lot higher than Golden State's and probably Houston, so it wouldn't be as valuable, but I think the pieces you're getting back are valuable. I mean, who exemplifies Heat culture quite like Marcus Smart, grit and grind guard, kind of exemplary of what the Heat are. Brandon Clark, too, a little bit of a smaller, compact big man, but he fills that role, too. And Luke Kennard, I feel like, is a guy that you could also, move on from after this year, or you could sign and trade him. All three are good assets, and I feel like the Heat, with added shooting, could still kind of be in contention for that playoff spot that they've been lingering around despite Butler's absence. And then the Grizzlies not only are adding Butler, so this creates kind of a crazy big four with Ja, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson, and now Jimmy. And then you add Kevin Love to that mix, who, listen, I know he's old, but as a guy who's only going to be playing 12, 18 minutes a game, I think he can give you some valuable minutes. And I think that, he, too, is a veteran with lots of experience. We know he's made the finals a couple times, won a finals with the Cavaliers. I just feel like this trade for the Grizzlies would be beneficial, and although it might deter some of the chemistry, I think it may be, worth taking a look at. Now, this is where we start the implausible trades. I picked out the San Antonio Spurs. I feel like the Spurs would be reluctant to give up assets at this stage in Wembanyama's career. I feel like this year is kind of alright, let's make a push towards the playoffs, and if something happens, it happens. But, having a player who's kind of on a, all-time pace is, you don't, if you look at like Jordan and LeBron, they weren't exactly sent into the best situations. They didn't have super teams built for them in day one. So I feel like this trade is kind of implausible for that reason. And, so I have Jimmy Butler going for Harrison Barnes, Zach Collins, and Trey Jones. I've said this before, Zach Collins' deal I feel like is going to deter the Spurs if they don't move on from it. He kind of doesn't play a lot for them, and although he is a solid backup center, at $17 million, that's just not money you can afford when, you've got a guy who you're going to want to compete with next year. Now, I think adding Jimmy to this team will be very good, like kind of a leader, like I said, and Wembanyama, we know he's extremely talented, but has really not shown to me that in a postseason series, obviously he's never been in the postseason, that he can be the guy taking the last shot. Same thing with the Rockets, so adding Jimmy here, and they're really not giving up that many assets. They are giving up Chicago's first-round pick, but San Antonio is really sitting on a treasure trove of picks here, so I feel like giving up some this year and next year in terms of second-round picks, they're also loaded. I don't think that would hurt them that much. The Phoenix Suns, Jimmy Butler and Alec Burks are kind of what it takes to get Bradley Beal. They're giving up a first round pick with this because I feel like if you're the Suns, you have to give a team something to take Bradley Beal's contract. So I feel like that's the reason they're pushing all their chips in the middle. I also feel like this is implausible for the reason that Beal, I really don't know what he's going to bring, and I don't know why the Heat would be open to accepting his 3-year contract. It doesn't make sense to me. As well as with the Suns, I mean, I know that they already have, minimal assets, but going all in on another older player to, kind of play the same role. We know that, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, they can facilitate the ball, but there has been times where it turns to be kind of my ball, your ball type deal. So I feel like adding Jimmy to this equation might not be the best move. However, they're the Suns, and we've seen them do moves like this in the past, like trading for Kevin Durant. So I feel like this may be, the last deal on the table, the most improbable. But if this happened, I would not be surprised. We know how Matt Ishbia rolls. If you look at these picks, they only have one more first-round pick after this, and that's it. They have no draft picks past 2031 if they do this deal. I believe they have swap rights on one of their picks, but this is really, getting rid of everything. And if I'm Phoenix, I know I already don't have my picks. I'm not quite sure what I would do in this situation. So, in terms of his future, the trade deadline is about a month from today. It's on February 6th, and the Heat are 17-16 right now. They're 6th in the Eastern Conference. So, I'm kind of questioning, will they, what package will they accept, and will this package help them go and make a playoff run? I'm not sure about run, but make a run to the playoffs. And then Jimmy, what's the next move for him? We don't know yet. I'm sure we'll get a better idea of that in the days and weeks to come. Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciated the support and talking about this situation. If you want more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe. I really love all the support, and thank you for watching.